How are we doing today, everybody? It is Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network and Dolphins fans. I've got to ask you, can we avoid making it 6 losses in a row to this Buffalo Bills team? Can we find a way to potentially get back into that mix, back into the playoff hunt with there's so much uncertainty with teams right now, but can we scratch and claw our way back into that mix? Can we look like a team which this offseason, this preseason, basically before week one, playoff aspirations, maybe even Super Bowl aspirations? Can we get back to that? Because right now, all of those questions, they feel like long shots, right? But I tell you what, if we can't find a way to get this thing done on Sunday, we may unfortunately have no choice but to kind of turn the rest of this season into what I'm going to consider player evaluation for the rest of the season. Because if we have 6 losses through the team's first 8 games, yeah, playoffs are going to feel nearly impossible to reach. So we are going to dive more into the Dolphins and Bills Week 9 game today. If you missed the last video, we took our initial dive into these two teams' Week 9 rematch as we wrap up the series against the Buffalo Bills. If you missed that one, I can go back and check that one out. Before we dive into today's final review, I got to hear from you guys, everyone in the audience. First and foremost, if you haven't gotten subscribed yet, would definitely appreciate it if you did so. Second, leave a comment. I really want to hear your final score predictions as well. But any other thoughts you've got on this game, how you see things getting played out, go ahead and drop them in the comments. All right, I'm recording this on Friday afternoon. The final injury report has come out, and you can see it going on the scroll there. But Zach Sealer, Kader Kohu, already ruled out. Javon Holland is actually officially doubtful for this game. All signs are pointing towards his missing as well. So this will be the Dolphins' second game in a row without Zach Sealer, the fractured bone in his face. A little bit of hope when we found out that he wasn't going to need surgery on that, but it's at least one more week that we will be without Sealer. And then if Holland misses, we're looking at 2 more members of this Dolphins secondary being out, which would result in more snaps if it kind of goes off of last week anyways. Marcus May a little bit more in your secondary at safety, and Cam Smith a little bit more at cornerback as well. In these videos, I always talk about some things that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. And you can already add this to the list. Can Marcus May play without that hesitation? Quite honestly, he had an opportunity to wrap up Kyler Murray at the end of that game last week. And it's sort of like paralysis by analysis, kind of froze in the moment. It's a tough matchup. Kyler Murray in space is hard, but Marcus May sort of let Kyler Murray dictate what was going to happen on that play. Can he play without hesitation? Can Cam Smith give 100% for an entire play? Because I feel like he's the guy that he'll stay with the defender for the first 2-3 seconds. And then it's kind of like, he almost acts like the play is over. Oh, the ball didn't come there right away. I'm kind of going to take the rest of the play off. It just looks like he's not playing 100% through every single play. So I want to see an improvement in that department as well. Going back to the injury report, tight end Julian Hill is the only other player that's been officially ruled out for the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill, as we expected, is completely off the injury report as well. Let's talk about a couple more things that I'm going to be having on my eye here Sunday afternoon. And are we going to unleash Jaylen Wright? We talked about it earlier in the week, how front office members have been in the ear of Mike McDaniel saying, you know what, there's a guy on this offense that's explosive and deserves more touches. I think in the last video I said he's going to get more touchdowns, which would be welcomed, but I meant to say touches if you check that one out. All signs are pointing towards Jaylen Wright being those guys, but being that guy. But at the end of the day, if the game script kind of goes to hell, if we're forced to pass more, are we going to abandon the run if we get behind, which we'll talk more here in a second? Where does that leave Jaylen Wright? Because honestly, I think you've got an opportunity here to, if you can set the tone early and keep the running backs in the mix, giving Jaylen Wright, how many carries do you want? Drop that in the comments, because I would love to see him get double digits. Carries, receptions, touches in general. Get this guy more involved. Mike McDaniel has been told to do it. Let's see if he ends up doing it. Dolphins fans, when's the last time that we played with a lead? This was what I was referring to. If we could get out and not finally play from behind, let the other team's edge rushers coming at us, abandon the running game, that can all be thrown out. Imagine how much more confidence Tua and this offense and this offensive line will have if we could just play with a lead. Imagine getting up 10 or 14-0 on the road against Buffalo. And I say imagine because that's about all we can do right now. All signs are pointing towards that not being the case. But imagine how much more confidence this team will have if we can play with a lead. So I would love nothing more than to receive the opening on there, get a touchdown, get the ball back. Hey, maybe create a turnover, which Josh Allen has been prone to do in the past, but this year, not so much. Let's get out there. Let's change a couple of things going on this year. Let's stop playing from behind all the time. Let's try to play with a lead. Another thing, we talked about that, generating sacks, turnovers. Can we do it? Dolphins fans, we have 3 interceptions this year, 2 of them by our defensive linemen or edge rushers. Not acceptable. We need to change that. We also have a total of 9 sacks through 7 games. Dexter Lawrence of the Giants, who plays interior defensive lineman, has 9 sacks this season already. That is something that we need to change as well. We got to get these edge rushers going. You can't go out of your way to try to sack Josh Allen from these lanes. We know that he can create off script, get out of the pocket. But at the end of the day, if we can get some pressure from the interior, get him to run into those edge rushers, maybe lead him to some off the target throws, like when he gets off his spot, maybe we can get a guy like Jalen Ramsey, his first interception of the season. We got to get some sacks. We got to get some turnovers in a game like this where we're on the road playing one of the better teams in the AFC. Let's knock out some viewer questions this week as well. We'll start with the first one. Speaking of edge rushers, why are they not moving Chop Robinson around to allow for his speed in space with more stunts? It's interesting with Chop Robinson. I will start with saying I don't think the season has played out really the way they imagined for Chop Robinson. I don't think Anthony Weaver and this coaching staff expected Chop Robinson to be getting this many snaps at this point in the season. They expected Jalen Phillips to be more healthy, maybe get a little bit more out of Emmanuel Ogbah and use Chop Robinson in a more of a situational manner while still giving him, some 3-down work as well. So I think there's that. But then the other thing, if you go back, I think they ended up calling a timeout on the play, but at one point in time, Chop Robinson was kind of lined up over center. They were going to do something there. I don't remember which team called the timeout, but the play never got to come to fruition. So they're moving him around a little bit. You've seen him drop back in coverage a little bit as well. They're just not really doing it to the extent, I think, in large part just because of how many snaps they got to play and the limited personnel really that they have up front, because Chubb still isn't available. Jalen Phillips is gone for the year. Emmanuel Ogbah has been hurt. I think it's a lot of the personnel stuff that's going into these coaching decisions rather than just saying, you know what, Chop, you're going to play this one position and do that only. I just think there's a lot of circumstances going on there. That was from J Biz. Daniel comes in with, are we going to see Mohamed Kamara for the rest of the season? So I mentioned in my comment back to you as well that I was going to try to do a little bit of digging. I didn't get a chance to get a new update, but as of last week, it was last week Sunday, I was told that the Mohamed Kamara being a game day inactive is a call by defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver. His goal, his plan with Kamara is to bring him along slowly. Now, I get the general idea of bringing later round rookies along slowly, but I also don't understand that when he's had, it's limited snaps, but when he's gotten those snaps, it's not like he's looking out of position. He's not looking the part. He was getting his job done, like I said, albeit a very limited sample size. So that's the reason. Don't shoot the messenger. I don't necessarily agree with it, because if you look at who else we've got trotting out there, it's not like they're going out there and getting a bunch of sacks or hurries or pressures or anything like that. So why aren't we giving Kamara a chance? That's the reason. Like I said, don't shoot the messenger. Let's do another one here. Is there anyone that you think we should trade for or be trading with the trade deadline coming up next week? John with the question. So I also asked my connection on Friday. Like I said, that's when I am recording this. Was told that as of today, we're not really in position to be buyers or sellers. Now, that doesn't mean that things can't change following this Sunday, but that's where things stand as of today. I'll tell you this, if things change, if I catch wind of anything, if I have any additional personal feelings besides what I'm about to say, I will do a video early next week before the trade deadline, kind of summarizing all that as well. Well, the one name that I will throw out as maybe a little bit of a teaser to that video, I wouldn't mind the idea of trading Javon Holland. If you think differently, if you've got comments on that, go ahead and throw that in the comments as well. But here's my theory. We know that Javon Holland is going to be hard to sign this offseason. He has intentions of being one of the top-ranked paid safeties in the entire NFL. Now, while I'll say this is kind of double-edged. His injuries are going to probably prevent us from being able to get anything back in a trade. He's also on the last year of that deal. You're probably not going to get the greatest value if you were to move him. At the same token, the fact that he is injured and has a history of these injuries and really isn't living up to what we thought he could potentially be this season, due in large part to the injuries, maybe he's cheaper to sign this offseason as well. So it could, like I said, it's a little bit double-edged there. I will talk more about that in a future video here. Like I said, if I catch a little bit more wind or if I get enough kind of content to come up with a trade deadline video, I will hit on that. But as of right now, I would anticipate the Miami Dolphins really not being all that active. Here's another component. If Chris Grier is indeed on the hot seat, do you want him pulling any strings here at a trade deadline, which could potentially be his last trade deadline? Consider that as well. All right, let's jump into this prediction, Dolphins fans. I don't do this often. The homer in me wants to pick the Miami Dolphins. And quite honestly, they're favored by 6.5 in this game. The NFL's weird. I could see the Miami Dolphins winning this game. We'll probably have to play one of our best games of the season. Not probably. We will have to play our best game of the season in order to win. But as of how things stand today with just how good the Bills have looked, and I'll be honest, I thought it might be more of a down season for the Bills, not down to the point where they're a top 10 draft pick next year, but down to the point where I thought they'd be the ones maybe battling for a wild card position. They've pushed that aside. They've looked good on defense. They've got the 6th defense overall in points allowed per game. They're right in the middle of the pack against the run and the throw. Not to mention all the troubles that we have with the Bills. Now couple that with going on the road against the Bills. Doesn't always bode well. So I'd love to predict this differently, but at the end of the day, I am going to take the Bills. But what I'll say is, in order to get this win, you're probably going to need to create one of those turnovers. We're probably going to need to either get out to that lead or stay competitive so we can keep the run game going. So you know what we can finally do? Unleash that deep passing attack. We really haven't been able to see it all that much this year. We got week 1, the big bomb play to Tyreek, where he caught the ball a long ways downfield, but then turned it up, and he's the angle killer, so he took it in for 6. We're going to need more of those plays. That's who we are. We're a high-flying offense when everything is clicking, and that's when we win games. I mean, we have to muddy it up a little bit and win an ugly game. It's not necessarily what we're good at yet. We're not the dirty team. We're not the trench team. We're not the physical team. I know we want to be. That's where a lot of us want us to be. We're just not there yet, and that's what the Bills can end up doing. So, yeah, I'm clearly cheering for the Dolphins. I wouldn't be surprised if we win, but my official prediction for this one, I'm sorry. Until they can prove it differently, I am going to go with the Bills. But like I said, drop your win-loss predictions. How do you see this thing shaking out in the comments? Moving on to the next video. It's been tough to do some of the post-game recaps with me having 3 young kids, and the schedule is just wild. And then we had Halloween on top of things. It's been more hit or miss. So I don't know exactly when I'm going to get to the recap, but believe me, I do have intentions of getting a recap done this week one way or another. And like I said, if I get any new ideas for a trade deadline video, I will definitely drop one of those as well. Enjoy the game, Miami Dolphins fans. Please, let's get a win. Let's just get a win and have a Sunday where we can sleep well. But until next time, Dolphins fans, fins up.